Aladdin Stanley thermos. Stanley, the tough, all-steel thermos bottle that's completely dependable and built to take a pounding year after year.
Okay, by now you've likely seen the videos of people waiting in long lines for these limited edition Stanley cups.
It is called the Quencher H2.0 Flow State Tumbler.
You ever seen one of these?
Yes.
These are very popular.
The hot gift drawing screams and sobs of joy.
She wanted a Stanley Cup.
I got a Stanley! The hashtag Stanley Cup racking up 6.7 billion views on TikTok.
Why are you so obsessed with these cups?
Everyone in school basically has them. Usually I don't drink a lot of water, but like when I have this cup, I drink like more water.
Well, it looks like a scene from Black Friday shopping about a decade ago. Target shoppers fighting to get their hands on the limited edition Valentine's Day Stanley Cup.
Is the cloud color. What I absolutely love, it is stainless steel, it is insulated, it is leak-proof.
The Stanley Adventure Quencher is overhyped. It's heavy, weighing 1.5 pounds when it's empty and almost 4 pounds filled, which makes it hard to carry around casually.
It was almost 3 o'clock in the morning.
People lining up overnight at Starbucks and Target stores to snag a limited edition version.
Get him! Get him! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Yeah, stop him!
Everyone in school basically has them.
They cost about $45 and they're sold out online and across Target stores nationwide.
Some online sellers are passing off knockoff Stanleys as the real thing, be advised. Others are stealing credit card numbers through phony websites promising big discounts.
I just got the new cool one, and now it's not cool.
I know.
Do they do anything special? They light up. What do they do?
I know, right.
It's a coffee holder.
They look cute.
Yeah,
wow. Heavy stuff. Oh, it's not a Stanley, don't worry. This is I think this is like a $5 cup. My sister got it for me for Christmas. It says gamer mode on. I think she just likes trying to embarrass me with cringy gifts, but it does the job. What you just saw was a little glimpse into the last 2 months or so. It's the latest trend that has gone viral thanks to TikTok, children on TikTok, and mothers who want to be popular in their friends group. We're talking about the Stanley Cup. But why did this or any other trend really blow up? I mean, sure, there's things like stupid dances or pranks that people pull, but there's a lot of trends that have kids begging their parents to spend money so they could feel included within their friend group. Behind every trend that involves a product is a successful business, and all successful businesses have something in common: marketing. Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Andy. Thank you for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, you'll see that I just make a lot of random stuff, kind of just whatever I feel like talking about in the moment. If you search around, you'll see like guides for The Legend of Zelda or a found footage horror film, you know, lots of random things, but hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you hit subscribe and stick around, and thanks for watching the video. So before we go into why the Stanley Cup is blowing up, let's talk a little bit about what Stanley is and where it came from. So Stanley didn't blow up overnight. As you saw in the beginning of this video, they've actually been around for quite a long time. The company was founded in 1913 by an inventor named William Stanley. Their first product was a vacuum-sealed, insulated, portable bottle that you could keep hot stuff hot or cold stuff cold all day long, otherwise known as a thermos. At the time, they were providing a luxury to construction workers, truck drivers, really anyone in the workforce, and even soldiers. That's right, Stanley was producing thermoses before World War I. They were cranking out those bottles before this nation first went to war. So being around that long is impressive in its own right, but it wasn't until really the last few years where Stanley went from a successful company to an industry leader and more profitable than I think William Stanley ever imagined. So this was made possible by two very valuable assets to Stanley: the Buy Guide and Terrence Riley. So let's start with the Buy Guide. The Buy Guide is an Instagram influencer affiliate page. Basically, they post products that they endorse with an affiliate link, and all of their followers who are interested in those products will click the link, buy the product, and the Buy Guide will receive a commission. The Buy Guide was founded by three women: Lindley Hutchinson, Ashley LeSueur, and Taylor Cannon. They organically fell in love with Stanley's products and posted it on their page. Organically means that they weren't paid to post about the product. It was just something that they found they really liked and they posted about. So eventually an employee of Stanley contacted the Buy Guide and set up a meeting. Now this was just a few years ago, and up until then, Stanley had no experience in influencer marketing. Really, up until 2012, their main demographic was the same as since they started. You know, the workforce, construction workers, truck drivers, policemen, people who go camping and hiking. So they have these three women coming to them and say, we have this entirely new user base that we think could benefit from your product. Now remember, the Buy Guide worked on an affiliate model, which means that they would post a link and receive commission based on the sales of the product. Stanley did not want to do that, and they proposed the Buy Guide make a wholesale bulk purchase of 10,000 units. It was risky, but the ladies really enjoyed the product, so they decided to do it. The Buy Guide released the units in two waves of 5,000. The first wave released and took about 4 days to sell out. The second wave released and took 1 hour to sell out. So needless to say, from then on, the Buy Guide was a very, very beneficial partner to Stanley. And that brings us to their second valuable asset, Terrence Riley. Terrence Riley became the global president of Stanley in 2020. And if this face looks familiar to you, it's probably because you saw him in a video a few weeks ago.
I've seen a lot of comments that we should send you some Stanleys. Well, we're going to send you some Stanleys. But there's one more thing. We've never done this before, and we'll probably never do it again, but we'd love to replace your vehicle.
So that was Stanley's TikTok account responding to another video that went viral about a week before that of a woman's car that caught on fire, and inside the car was her Stanley cup, and not only was it undamaged, there was still ice inside.
Everybody's so concerned about if the Stanley spills, but what about if it melts? It was in a fire yesterday, it still has ice in it.
But yeah, Stanley offered to purchase this woman a new car. They made the TikTok video, posted it, and let the internet do the rest. At most, Stanley would be spending $30,000 to $35,000 to buy this woman a new car. But some brands have budgets that are 5 times that amount that they could spend in any given month. I think Stanley might have had a surplus in their budget, saw the opportunity, and jumped on it. Now, don't get me wrong, this was a very generous thing Stanley offered to do for this woman. But if you think it's solely coming from a place of kindness and they weren't expecting to see any kind of return, you're definitely mistaken. So that brings us back to the man in the video, Stanley's president, Terrence Riley. You see, before Riley became president of Stanley, he was the chief marketing officer of Crocs. You know, Crocs, the shoe that within the last decade went from the horrendously ugly and cheap looking piece of footwear to a nationwide craze with models wearing it on runways and celebrities, you know, endorsing it, people buying little charms to put on their shoes. That was Terrence. His success as a higher up at Crocs landed him a job as an even higher up at Stanley. So he left one job to do the same thing that he did so well at a new place. But how? Just the TikTok video? No, there was a couple more things. Just on a side note, much like the Stanley, I don't get why Crocs became so popular. I honestly thought that they were like a cheap alternative and people were just buying them because they needed shoes. And then I found out that they were this huge popular craze. I don't know. But something that always sticks out to me, and a lot of people probably know about this, but do you remember the movie Idiocracy, where Luke Wilson falls asleep? He does like a military testing experiment. He wakes up in the future and everyone's super dumb, and he's a relatively dumb guy in modern day, but when he wakes up, he's like the smartest man on the earth. So a funny story about that movie, it was directed by Mike Judge, who did King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead, and it had a low budget. And they were looking for some kind of piece of footwear that everybody could wear in the future, because everyone was kind of uniform. They were all doing the same thing. It was very simplistic, and they didn't have a big budget, so they were looking for something cheap. And they saw Crocs, and Crocs were incredibly cheap back then. I think the movie was made in like 2005 or probably even earlier than that. And Mike Judge and everyone, I guess the wardrobe department of the movie saw these Crocs and they were like, these things look so dumb. Of course it would be something where everybody in the future would wear if they were all idiots. And then it became a nationwide craze 20 years later. And that's something that I always remember, and it always made me stop and think about why I should never own a pair of Crocs. But back to Terrence and his marketing genius with Stanley. So it turns out that Terrence had a strategy that was proven to be effective. It involves a few different steps. The first one is he waits for a moment. For Crocs, it was Post Malone. Post Malone posted a picture of him wearing Crocs. He was not paid to make the post. He just owned a pair of Crocs. I guess he liked them, and he posted it organically. Again, organically means he was not paid. It was just something that happened. Terrence saw this. He immediately called Post Malone's record label and said, "We want to work with him." Post Malone, being a fan of Crocs, jumped on the idea. Of course, I would love to get paid to work with something that I enjoy. Who wouldn't, you know? So Post Malone and Crocs released a collaborative shoe, and then all of a sudden more celebrities were jumping on the Crocs bandwagon. You know, you had Justin Bieber, Luke Combs, Bad Bunny. I think those were the only three that I saw in the articles that I was researching. But still, when the shoe released, Terrence said Post Malone loved Crocs before he was getting paid to build them. And that really resonated with Post's fans. Now, the other celebrities that jumped on, maybe they weren't as big of a fan of Crocs as he was, but they were fans of money. And now from the collaboration with Post Malone, they had more money to keep doing celebrity endorsements and kind of snowball from there. Again, a side note, I know I'm not on the same page as everyone else, and I know that this is something that's common. It just never really made sense to me. I don't see a celebrity do something and think I have to do that too, or I want to do that too. People see Justin Bieber and Post Malone wearing Crocs and they think that they should get Crocs too. Justin Bieber's probably not a great example from recent years. I don't think he's that popular anymore. But again, when I was researching the history of it, his name kept popping up. So, but yeah, I guess it has to be still popular in the younger generation at least. But the idea of celebrity it really kind of grosses me out. But I guess it works for these companies. So yeah, for Crocs and Terrence, it was Post Malone. For Stanley and Terrence, it was Carrie Underwood. She organically posted a picture of her and her Stanley Cup on her Instagram. Very similar situation to Crocs and Post Malone, and allowed Stanley to reach out, create partnerships, and roll from there. They finally had celebrities noticing their product. So the next step that Terrence implemented was changing the demographic. Again, like I mentioned, Stanley was still being geared towards the working class and outdoors type. Now there is a market for that, but there's bigger markets out there. Do you remember the buy guide from earlier in the video? 97% of their followers are women ages 30 to 45. With 100% of their followers being people between ages 20 and 55. Posting a product to that user base that promises ease and convenience for someone's life is a very easy way to make that affiliate commission. So everyone's looking for more convenience. Convenience is probably the easiest thing to sell. Look at convenient marts. You walk in and everything is jacked up because you just want to get in, get something really quick and get out. They make a killing off of that. Again, I'm going off on tangent. I live right next to a convenience store and it is horrible. I do not recommend it. But it is very easy to sell. So Stanley shifted from a male demographic to fit a more female-centered one based on their experiences with both the Buy Guide and Terrence Riley's time at Crocs. They started coming out with vibrant colors and different variations of their cups to fit the different personalities and needs of their new user base. It was like Pokemon that you could drink out of and probably kill someone with. They're gigantic. It's like you're holding a boulder. And appealing to a bigger audience grew the product's demand, which Stanley anticipated and was in control of. This leads into the last big step that Stanley took to creating a craze: scarcity. Again, much like what the Buy Guide did, Stanley limited the availability of the quencher, allowing wait lists to grow to 150,000 plus people as word spread and people became more eager to get their hands on the product. Remember, the Buy Guide released their first wave of 5,000 and it took 4 days to sell out because not a lot of people knew about the product. But within those 4 days, the people who found the product, ordered it, got excited that they were getting something new, told their friends, and word spread like wildfire. And I'm sure that the product came in, they were able to show it off, and they released the second wave. That's why the second wave only took an hour to sell out. Stanley mixed this with direct-to-consumer marketing, meaning that they would send a certain amount of product to the stores that they were selling in around the world. This had people camping overnight, rushing the store as soon as it opened. People would post online that they got one. People would buy multiples so they could try to flip them on their own and turn a profit. And the people that didn't get it felt crushed, and their anxiousness and eagerness to get the product grew until the next drop. This causes what you've probably experienced on TikTok, seeing all of these videos of people rushing the stores, fights breaking out, people stealing, breaking into the back rooms of Target to lift the Stanley cups before they're even on the floor. People just latch on to how much hype is built around this and think they have to either get in on it or they have to get the product to sell on their own. It's an easy way to make money. You know, there's a lot of different things that involve that. The hype of posting this product online and the trend building increases. Now, besides that last bit, it kind of sounded like I was in favor of Stanley, but I was just recapping a successful business. In my personal opinion, it's a cup. There are dozens, if not hundreds of other brands. Remember, gamer mode on, that do the same thing. I don't get the hype around it. And honestly, I feel like if you have to spend money to feel included, that is just wrong and a little disgusting. But sadly, that seems to be the way that trends go. Something takes off and the public takes it from there. And the company behind that product does whatever they can to capitalize on the craze before the trend dies out. And that's the thing about trends. They always end. Now I can imagine that Stanley is seeing some insane growth from this craze, not only in profit, but their employee base. They would obviously have to hire more employees to meet the demand, even though they're controlling the distribution of the Stanley Cup. When the trend dies out and there's not the demand that meets the amount of employees they have, there could be massive layoffs at Stanley. This actually happened to me a few years ago. I worked as a video editor for this online wellness video subscription service. And during COVID, they saw insane growth because everyone was inside. And during COVID, they expanded like crazy. We went from like 30 employees to 85. And then people started going back outside and the company was too big to sustain itself. And Stanley is on a completely different level. It's never fun to see someone lose their job. Now, going back to it being a trend with kids, it happens with every generation. For me, it was Pokemon and Tamagotchi, and before that it was Furbies. You know, I remember when I was in first grade, we heard a Furby crying from a book bag, and a kid got in trouble because he brought it to school and he told the teacher that he had to feed it or else it would die. That's how seriously we took our Furbies. Well, not me. I left my Furby at home. It could fend for itself. When we got older, it was the type of music we listened to. Like, if you didn't have the latest copy of Now That's What I Call Music, you weren't in the in crowd. Now I wouldn't catch myself dead listening to songs that are on that, because I grew into my own person and I developed my own tastes and I grew out of trends. But it does happen with every generation. And I guess the issue that I see with that is that it's a cycle that hasn't been broken. And a lot of the generation that I grew up with are still out there. They're the ones that are camping outside stores, and in some cases camping with their kids so they both could get a Stanley Cup. It's like a portion of the population never grew out of feeling like they have to have this new thing. It's like it's what keeps them going. And rather than showing their kids that you don't need what everyone else has to fit in, that you could be your own person, they're just throwing money at it. And not only that, they're joining in. And that girl from the beginning who said that her Stanley helps her drink more water, sure, that's great if you look at it that way. It could be a great motivator for kids to stay hydrated and drink the right things. But then you have stuff like this. This is just another person capitalizing on a trend in their own way by posting TikTok videos of these insane drink rituals. I have no idea what to call it other than a ritual. It's like when people would make those extravagant coffees with like whipped cream and chocolate chips and flavored creamers and caramel and all this stuff, and it's like 5,000 calories when you're done with it. I mean, I know that a lot of these flavor packets aren't terrible. Like, a lot of them are 0 sugar, and I use some of these. But I also know that one of those packs is for like 32 ounces of water, and this woman's putting like a dozen in one of these Stanley Cups just to make some like eye-catching content that'll have kids staring at their screen. I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but if you scroll TikTok enough, and I'm ashamed to admit that I have, you see that the majority of content on there is just to get views. Like, they don't care what they're doing, how stupid they look, what they're promoting, how it could potentially be harmful. I know I'm going off on a little tangent here, but I just see it so much. They just want that engagement, and nobody seems to be thinking about what the person on the other side of that screen, how they're reacting to it. But yeah, one of those packets is for like 32 ounces of water. So when you're adding 12 to one Stanley Cup, it kind of defeats the purpose. It's like, as I'm getting older, I'm seeing more of the population diverge. It's kind of like some people find their own way and other people stick to the crowd. And the insanity that gets posted online just for people to get likes and follows, it just makes people seem more like sheep than their own person. And I know that that could be taken the wrong way, but I always made it a point to feel like my own person. And as I've done that throughout the years, you just start to notice stuff. I've never stepped foot inside of a Starbucks, but I drive past them and I always see cars wrapped around the building. Sometimes they're next to like a highway, and the line will be out to the highway, and people will not care that they're taking up a lane of a highway to get their Starbucks. I stopped shopping at Target because I want to go in and buy a pair of socks, and I have to walk back to like the detergent aisle because that's where the checkout line ends. And then I get home and I open up TikTok and I see someone's Target trip where they first stop at the Starbucks and they get their $12 drink, and then they go and they find all of their stuff, and the link's in the bio, you know, links what I found, buy it in the bio. I don't know, man, I'm getting off on a tangent again. It's like 3 a.m. But yeah, you start to notice these things, and I just can't help but wonder, like, what's the appeal? But in the end, that's their life. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect you. It's just a pattern that I've seen to continue throughout the years. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. Within the last 2 weeks, there has been countless stories involving Stanley, of kids getting bullied at school and people getting scammed on Facebook and drop shipping websites of fake knockoff Stanleys getting taken from stores like you saw at the beginning of this video. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want me to take a deeper dive, let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, let me know your thoughts in general. Are you all in on Stanley? Are you like me and you just don't get the hype? Just let me know how you're feeling. So I'm not sure if this video is going to serve a purpose or have a meaning behind it. I just felt like I had a valid opinion on this topic, and I wanted to share it with whoever wanted to watch. So if that was you, thank you so much for watching the video, and hopefully I see you again.